Okay, let's dive into this. Picture a supercar, born back in 1993. Just a real anomaly, fueled by this kind of unbridled passion you just don't see every day.
Right.
We're plunging into the story of the Isdera Commendatore 112i. There can be only one. Seriously, that's the vibe. And this one single creation, that's our focus today.
And we've got some really fascinating source material here detailing how it all came together.
Exactly. Our mission really is to unpack the sheer ambition, maybe even the sort of rebellious spirit behind this machine.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is the timing, the context. The early 90s, that was a real turning point, wasn't it, in the car industry? The days of building cars purely for the love of it, well, they were kind of starting to fade. Things were getting more calculated, more market-driven.
Definitely. So the Commendatore showing up then, it feels like a real statement, like pushing back against that whole trend.
It really does.
So let's talk about Eberhard Schulz, the man behind it all. His story kicks off way back 1971. He built a car in his own home called the Aerator GTE, talk about gutsy, and then basically just presents it to Porsche and Mercedes Benz.
Wow. No messing around.
Right. He might not have had all the formal engineering degrees and stuff, but that Aerator, our sources describe it as a declaration of ability wrought in steel and fiberglass. That's one heck of an introduction.
That shows incredible self-belief, doesn't it? And interestingly, that boldness actually landed him a job at Porsche.
It did. But what's fascinating is, even while he's working at Porsche, within the system, he's still burning the midnight oil on his own designs.
Right, his own passion project.
Exactly. And that eventually leads to the CW311 concept car.
Yes, the CW311. That's a key part of the story. It was kind of conceived as a spiritual successor to the legendary Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing.
And get this, when the prototype was shown off in 1978, it had a Mercedes star slapped right on the front.
He actually put the star on it.
He did. And Mercedes' reaction, apparently, surprisingly, muted. Maybe they were intrigued, a little impressed even.
No. Well, it's more likely they probably recognized the passion, maybe the talent, but couldn't officially endorse something they didn't, directly control. Still, putting their badge on his independent project, that was a bold move.
Definitely provocative.
So after his time with the tuning house B+B wrapped up, Schulz makes this huge leap and founds Isdera in 1982.
Isdera, Engineer Bureau for Styling, Design on Racing. That name alone tells you what he was about.
It certainly does. And the goal was clear. Finally bring that CW311 vision, his vision, into production.
Which he managed with the Imperator 108i. Another really limited production supercar, right? It had those gullwing doors that became his signature, and a Mercedes V8.
Very cool car in its own right. Impressive.
No doubt. But as our sources really stress, for Schulz, this wasn't the end game. Not by a long shot. He had much grander plans still brewing.
Precisely. The Imperator was a huge achievement. Yeah, it proved Isdera could actually build a proper, compelling supercar. But it seems like Schulz saw it more as a stepping stone.
Towards something even bigger.
Towards something truly exceptional. Something that could genuinely go head-to-head with the established kings, the Italian supercars.
Okay, so that takes us towards the late 80s. Schulz is already sketching ideas for the Imperator's successor. Then, bang! 1993 Frankfurt Motor Show.
And there it is.
There it is, the Commendatore 112i. And Schulz's aims, they were incredibly ambitious. We're talking racing at Le Mans, dominating the Autobahns, taking the fight to Ferrari and Lamborghini.
This wasn't just about building a fast car. It was about making a massive statement.
Absolutely. And the first thing, the very first thing that hits you, even just looking at pictures today, is how it looks. It's just otherworldly.
It really is. So incredibly low, very, very elongated. And those gullwing doors, they're not just for getting in and out. They cover the engine bay, too. Super dramatic.
And then you notice, wait, where are the side mirrors?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No traditional mirrors.
The periscope.
Yeah.
Can't miss it. It was actually carried over from the Imperator, apparently.
Yeah.
And Schulz wasn't just doing it for looks. He had the aero data to justify it.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of function dictating form, but in a really striking, almost weird way. It gives the car this almost alien vibe.
Totally.
It definitely reinforces that feeling of a car just single-mindedly focused on slicing through the air. But the innovation wasn't just skin deep, was it?
Not at all. Underneath that hand-built fiberglass body was some serious hardware. A Mercedes-Benz M120 6.0-liter V12 engine.
Oh, that engine. Legendary.
The very same one you'd find in the SL600, and later, famously, the Pagani Zonda. But here's where it gets really wild.
Okay.
Mercedes never, ever intended that V12 to be hooked up to a manual gearbox. Most car makers would probably just say, okay, automatic it is then.
You'd think so. It's a massive engineering hurdle.
But Schulz wasn't most car makers. He commissioned a custom flywheel and then basically engineered his own solution. He took a 6-speed transaxle that was originally derived from a Roof 5-speed unit.
Roof, the Porsche specialist.
Yeah, and he modified it, specifically adding that 6th gear just to hit his target top speed.
That is some serious dedication and serious problem solving.
Incredible, isn't it? And the chassis wasn't some off-the-shelf thing either. It was a proper, bespoke space frame construction.
Right, which for anyone listening who isn't an engineer, a space frame is basically this strong, lightweight skeletal structure. It provides a really rigid base for the car, crucial for performance and handling.
And then the suspension, heavily modified bits from a Porsche 928, if you can believe it.
Wow, Porsche components too.
Yeah, and it featured active height control, developed with Bilstein and BBS, so the car would actually physically lower itself as it went faster.
Improving stability and, again, aerodynamics. That really shows the dual nature, doesn't it? Stunning looks, incredible speed potential, but also some really sophisticated engineering underneath.
And don't forget that drag coefficient number, CD 0.306. They actually achieved that in Mercedes-Benz's own wind tunnel.
0.306? That's seriously slippery, especially for a road car back then. Just shows how obsessed Schulz was with the aero.
So despite all this hardcore performance focus, the Commendatore wasn't just a track weapon. It was actually meant to be a grand tourer too.
Which seems almost contradictory, but okay.
Well, think about it. It had this massive 120-liter fuel tank, that sophisticated active chassis we just mentioned, and get this, an electronically controlled air brake.
Like on a fighter jet.
Sort of.
Yeah.
It would pop up under hard braking to help slow the car down. High-tech stuff.
That's a fascinating mix. Raw power meets refined control. Our sources actually contrast it with the McLaren F1, suggesting the Commendatore had maybe a more Germanic restraint.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It definitely had the visual drama, but maybe approached its performance in a slightly different, more understated way than the F1.
Interesting comparison.
And then you climb inside, tricky with those sills apparently, and you find this two-tone, black and blue, leather, really nice Recaro sports seats.
Proper buckets.
Proper buckets. But then surprisingly familiar Mercedes gauges and switches. Kind of grounds it a bit.
Except for one gauge, right?
Ah, yes. Except for the speedometer that goes all the way up to 400 kilometers per hour.
Just a casual 400. And those super wide door sills you mentioned?
Yeah, they weren't just for structure. They actually housed dual fuel tanks.
Yeah.
Talk about using every single inch of space.
That's clever. A bit unusual, but definitely speaks to the engineering challenges and the, innovative solutions Schulz came up with to meet his grand touring goals.
Right. So Isdera had these big plans. Limited hand-built production. There were even whispers of a second, more powerful model coming. But then
reality hit, the early 90s economic downturn.
Exactly. The Japanese economic bubble burst in 93. The main investors pulled out and, well, Isdera went bankrupt.
Oh, wow. So the Commendatore?
Ended up as a non-functional prototype. Just sat there. A real automotive, what could have been. Tragic, really.
That just highlights how fragile these passion projects can be, doesn't it? Especially when they rely on outside money and, well, the economy staying stable, the vision was there, the engineering, but the funding just vanished.
Yeah, brutal. But, thankfully, the story doesn't quite end there on that sad note.
No.
A Swiss consortium actually stepped in, bought what was left of Isdera, and managed to bring the 112i back to the Frankfurt show in 1999.
Okay, a rescue.
Kind of. It was rebranded as the Silver Arrow, but it wasn't quite the same car. It had some changes, different, more modern mirrors, like off a CLK GTR, different wheels.
Ah, so the purists probably weren't thrilled.
Not exactly. Yeah. But then, the car gets featured in the video game Need for Speed 2.
No way.
Yep. And suddenly a whole new generation discovers this crazy car, even if it's just in, the virtual world.
That's a pretty wild twist. This car, meant to be this ultimate real-world machine, finds this whole second life digitally, reaching way more people, ironically.
It is ironic, and the story gets even better. Eventually, Isdera, the original company, managed to get the Commendatore back.
They bought it back.
They did, and they painstakingly restored it, back to its original 1993 Frankfurt Motor Show spec. Original paint, those iconic BBS wheels, even the periscope went back on.
That's fantastic. So it exists as it was meant to be.
It does. And get this, it's actually road legal in Germany today, registered, with apparently incredibly low mileage. A true resurrection.
Wow. That's a real testament to Schulz's original vision, isn't it? That people cared enough to bring it back like that. It shows how significant this one-off really is.
Absolutely. And then there's this other layer to the story, this almost mythical tale of a second Commendatore.
A second one? I thought there was only one.
Well, officially, yes. But allegedly, a private enthusiast managed to build another one using spare parts and the original body molds. Apparently, Schulz himself was involved, kind of sporadically, over like 6 years.
Seriously, a sort of unofficial sibling.
Exactly. Our source calls it the second shadow, which is pretty evocative. It's finished differently. Light ivory paint, light gray interior, apparently has side exit exhausts, and uses Porsche switchgear inside.
So it's distinctly different.
Very. And because of those differences and its unofficial nature, Isdera ultimately disowned it. So it exists, but it's the sort of ghost car. Adds to the legend, though.
Definitely adds another layer of intrigue to the whole Commendatore saga.
So when you look back at the Isdera Commendatore 112i, it really stands as this incredible symbol, doesn't it? A symbol of a time when pure, unadulterated passion could drive someone to create something truly unique, almost completely outside of market demands.
Yeah, you often hear it mentioned alongside other amazing 90s boutique hypercars like, the early Koenigsegg's or the Pagani Zonda C12.
Right. But the key difference is the Commendatore lacked that crucial commercial backing. It never made it into proper series production like those others did.
And that's really the defining point, isn't it? It wasn't about sales targets or focus groups. It was about proving a point, realizing one person's deeply personal, singular vision.
Our sources suggest that to actually drive the Commendatore, which, let's be honest, very few people ever will, is like connecting directly with Eberhard Schulz's ideals.
Also.
Like this purity of purpose, this deep respect for mechanical craft, and this almost wonderfully mad sense of romanticism about what a car could represent. It wasn't designed by committee. It wasn't a compromise.
It was one man's dream hammered out in metal and fiberglass.
Pretty much sums it up.
It really captures the spirit of a maybe bygone era in car design and engineering. A powerful reminder that sometimes just the pursuit of excellence of your own vision can be its own reward.
So we've followed this incredible journey, haven't we? The Isdera Commendatore 112i. From Schulz's initial audacious vision to that dramatic 93 unveiling, all the fascinating tech under the skin, the near-death experience of the company, and then its remarkable comeback.
Right.
What a story.
It really is unforgettable. And it does make you wonder, isn't it? In today's car world, which is so heavily shaped by, practicality, regulations, market trends, what does the Commendatore's story, the story of a singular, uncompromising passion project, tell us? Maybe it's about the enduring value of that kind of vision.
Perhaps it serves as a potent reminder that sometimes, the most significant things aren't necessarily the most commercially successful. Sometimes they're born from just pure, unadulterated passion and a flat-out refusal to compromise.
Definitely something worth thinking about.
Absolutely something to ponder. Maybe, you could go looking for other examples of these fascinating what-if cars or dig into the histories of other independent supercar makers. It's a whole world of amazing stories out there.